Hey everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. You're listening to PHLY Flyers. That's right, PHLY. My name is Bill Matz. I'm your director of fun and games for the morning. That's right. We are here bright and early here on this Tuesday morning, and I am joined. I have him in person. He's not going to disappear. Philadelphia's #1 beat reporter, Charlie O'Connor. Charlie, it's nice. It's nice to see you and be able to hear you.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me this time?
Shit. Well, that's a personal problem, really, more than anything. But yes, I can actually hear you today.
Yes.
Apologies for last night's post game. It was if it was frustrating for you, imagine being on the camera during that time and think maybe, Anyway, we are here, and Flyers have been killing it lately, so I wanted to start with last night's game because it was, despite the lack of scoring, I thought, pretty entertaining.
It was an exciting game. It was definitely more exciting than the Saturday game.
Yes.
Saturday's game, the third period was fun.
Yes.
But this game was back and forth the whole game. A lot more scoring chances. Just a lot more of the kind of game that you expected to see from the Flyers and Penguins, even though there weren't a ton of goals.
That's Flyers-Penguins hockey, yes, was defined by the asinine amount of penalties, brawls, just stupid, slapshot-esque BS that went on during them. But also, there would be 11 goals.
Yeah, right.
And someone won 6-5. Who's to say? And that's just kind of the way it was. And we're just seeing totally different hockey out of these teams. But last night was a little bit more of that back. I mean, I had Travis Konechny to score, and 2 assists are nice and all.
He did everything except score.
He went 0 for 2 on breakaways. I don't know, bro. Maybe put one of them in. It's Alex Nedeljkovic in net. It's not exactly Hasek, but I want to start with a guy who we spent some time on earlier. I guess it was last week at this point, Sean Couturier. Because I asked you, if the second, sixth, and first finishes of Couturier's Selke voting career the last few years, if that was his A+ game, where he was around a point a game, thought of as one of the better two-way guys. What is he right now? These 20 or so games since he's been back, and you were solid B+.
Yeah.
And I think I'd agree with that. But just seeing him last night, kind of, he scores the shootout winner on Saturday. Then last night finishes off the play to win it in overtime. But what really stuck out to me, we talked about how his faceoffs have been not the 56% guy that we came to know at the end of the Giroux era.
Yeah.
Wins a defensive zone faceoff against pretty good faceoff guy.
He's okay.
Not bad. Sidney Crosby probably should have won every Selke for the last 10 years, but
he's not bad.
Yeah, wins that defensive zone draw and then goes the length of the ice and finishes off the play. I was just that was as vintage Couturier as we could ask for. What did you think about him last night?
Yeah, I think it honestly surprised me how many people were in my mentions during Saturday's game saying that Couturier doesn't look very good. And there was one play, I think it was in the first period, where he lost a puck race, and I think that just kind of stuck in people's heads.
He's always been slow.
He looked slow on that play, and there were a few passes that he misfired on. But on the whole, watching that line that he's been on with Tyson Forster and Travis Konechny, it just seems like they always have the puck in the offensive zone. And this is Sean Couturier. Sean Couturier has never been an elite offense driver in terms of creativity. Even at his peak, he would have that ability to pop up, right when Claude Giroux be wheeling through the offensive zone, Couturier would pop himself in a dangerous area and then score because Claude Giroux was an amazing playmaker and Couturier has amazing hockey sense. But Sean Couturier has never been a guy who just creates scoring chances for himself at will. That's not his game. So I think, honestly, some of the consternation about Couturier is in part because people forgot that Couturier isn't this dominant offensive weapon. He produces points and he creates offense mostly out of volume, not in the volume sense of he's just shooting pucks like crazy, but in the volume sense of they're always in the offensive zone when he's on the ice.
And that's the reason, Claude Giroux, an excellent offensive zone player, also was never a 100-point guy.
Yeah.
And then he gets put with Couturier. It's guess what? You don't have to do all the neutral zone work. and we're going to get you in the offensive zone all the time. And now both of you have the opportunity to, like, Sean Couturier is not a 76-point player probably. Yeah. But like when he's with G or someone like that, he is. And it's good to see that coming back. But like you talked about the line with Forster and Konechny. And it just feels like right now, every time the Flyers look a little sleepy, and then all of a sudden, like, ooh, all right, a good shift. Let's get some momentum going. I look up, and it's like, yeah, 11 just won a puck battle, and then got the puck in front, and we had 2 scoring chances, and now the Flyers are finally on offense.
I do wonder with Couturier, and this will be an interesting thing, I think, to track over his 30s. You know, as he continues to age, it seems like he's probably going to be part of this. I mean, he's got a no movement clause. If he doesn't want to leave, he ain't leaving. But I think back to the game he played against the Oilers against McDavid. And that was, in my mind, one of his best games of the year.
That was tremendous.
Then you had these, especially the game he played last night against Sidney Crosby's matchup against Crosby, plays really well. I do wonder, and I'm not saying that he is, you know, he's half-assing it when he plays against weaker teams. But I do wonder if there is an element of, I'm in my 30s. I can't give 100% of everything I want to give every night. So maybe I save it a little bit for when I'm against these top-tier players. And maybe it's unconscious, or maybe there's a little bit of consciousness where, hey, I know I can't expend the reserves against, you know, the Blue Jackets because I got to save it up for when I got to go head toe-to-toe with Sidney Crosby.
And totally fair. And like, I want to talk about the rivalry between these teams in just a minute, but like watching Crosby say in a scrum, like there were no scrums last night, and it's the back end of a back-to-back. Like I was walking out of the stadium last night, and I just hear this Penguins fan mom talking to her son. She's like, "We look old." It's like, that's the best. That's what the Penguins look like. You know who's not expending any extra energy? Like Sidney Crosby is not getting in a fight. He's like, no, I don't have the energy for that. I'm a 36. Like, Evgeny Malkin still looks dangerous. He also looks like an old fucking man. Yeah. Like, that team is just like, we're not doing all that shit we did in our 20s. Yeah. Like, it's just not happening. And I can't imagine Sean Couturier, who's been doing this with them since he was a teenager and is now like a grown-ass man, he probably feels the same way. Like, nah, I'm not cross-checking Malkin just so he can cross-check me back. Like, that's foolish. Yeah, my back hurts.
There was a day when I would have done that. Yeah. Not
like,
today.
And that, like, I just feel like that's kind of like the part of Couturier's career he's in as well now. And it's why, you know what, if Owen Tippett can't lead this team to victory over the Blue Jackets, then Owen Tippett ain't going to be a part of this. Yeah. So, like, Couturier, save it for McDavid. That's totally fine with me.
Exactly. And I just wonder if there is a calculation in Couturier's head of, look, not every night do I necessarily or should I necessarily be going truly balls to the wall, because I'm going to need it when we play against the top teams and when I am asked every shift to go up against one of the top 10 players in hockey. I'm not sure. That might just be something I'm inventing, but I think to the games this season where I've been the most impressed by Couturier, and it does seem like he rises up to meet the challenge of playing against and trying to shut down a top-tier player. I just wonder if there might be a little calculation on his part that I can't do what I did in my early to mid-20s. I have to pace myself a little bit over the course of a long season.
And just, if I'm the coaching staff, because we know John Tortorella is coaching for the future, I mean, this dude's talking about playing a style that will benefit a dude who we believe won't be here for 3 more years.
I guess we'll see.
The fact that he's talking about it, I was like in bed last night thinking about the show, like pissed about last night's postgame, right, and thinking about making today's show good. And I'm just like, what's popped up lately? Like, I don't know. The Mad Russian thing was interesting, but also, why is he thinking about that? Yeah. Like, John Tortorella doesn't last 4 years anymore. Like, that'll be his 5th year. Like, he doesn't always get a 5th year, you know?
We'd be getting close.
But anyway, like, just... yeah, that's so. If we're going to talk about Couturier and that game-winning play last night, also got to talk about. You tweeted Travis Sanheim drew it up in the face-off circle.
He sure did,
because they were taking a long time. There was a timeout, and then they really took their time getting to that defensive zone draw, and it was clear a conversation was going on. And Oh, maybe Sanheim needs to be OC. Maybe he needs to replace Brian Johnson.
Yeah, right. Look, Sanheim's and I don't think people realize how intelligent of a player, honestly, how intelligent of a person he is. Like, there's a reason why he volunteered to be the new NHLPA rep and really take the lead on it from James Van Riemsdyk. Like, he is a pretty thoughtful guy. But we asked him because the way that play developed, and I tweeted it out in the moment, it very much looked like a set play. It looked like something that wasn't just everybody going by instinct. It looked like something that was planned. So we asked Travis Sanheim, the first guy we got after the game, about it, and he basically said, I saw how they were lined up. Their D was up against the wall for the faceoff. I had Gensel right next to me, so I yelled back to TK. I said, if we win this here, I'm going to rim it around. You should be able to beat him, which is exactly what happened. Couturier wins the draw. Konechny's off to the races. Sanheim actually said he thought it was only going to be Konechny that beat his guy. He wasn't expecting Couturier to also beat his guy, so it was even better than he'd originally thought. But yeah, that was apparently Sanheim's plan, that he just saw something. And I asked Tortorella after the game. I wanted to bring this up in post-game, but unfortunately we couldn't. I asked Tortorella after the game, obviously he has a young team in terms of trying to develop guys like Tippett, even guys like, Noah Cates, who's out, but Cam York, Tyson Forster, Bobby Brink. These are guys that they're trying to develop into what they're ultimately going to be. In some ways, from a talent standpoint, they may be more talented than the guys they're looking to surpass. But what they don't have is the experience to do things like that, to just look at a situation, look at a play, look at a formation, and then not only recognize it, but have the confidence to tell your teammates, hey, this is what we're doing. And I asked, is this kind of, exactly what you want to see from your vets? And he basically said, absolutely. This is what guys like Sanheim and Couturier and even Konechny, this is what we want them to do. This is what they bring that the young guys can't. And that was really cool. It was cool to see, like, Travis Sanheim is, and this is honestly part of the reason why I enjoy covering him so much, is that he doesn't have the personality, like traditional personality of a pro athlete. And I'm not, in no way, shape, or form am I, because these guys are actually,
okay. They're dumb.
No, but not even that. Like, these guys are best buddies. But Travis Konechny has the personality of like a stereotypical pro athlete. Like, I'm the shit, and I want you all to know it. Whereas Sanheim is much more not laid back, but he's just kind of, he's not a big talker. I think he deals with self-doubt sometimes. And honestly, to me, like, that makes him more relatable to me than someone like Konechny. Like, I could never be a Travis Konechny. I would never have that much confidence in myself. Like, are you kidding me? Whereas Travis Sanheim, when he talks about overthinking things and when he talks about, I just couldn't get that one bad play out of my head, I'm just like, yeah, I feel that. Like, if I have a bad show or I make a mistake in an article, I have a typo, I'm thinking about it all day. So there's an element of relatability to Travis Sanheim, which is why it was so cool to hear that he was the one that came up with the play, because he's not the kind of personality that automatically thinks that his ideas are perfect, and he has the confidence in that situation in overtime against the big rival of the team to not only notice something, but believe that he's right in noticing it and call the play and then see it play out the way it did. It was cool.
So that line last night, they were eventually the heroes of the game. Your hero, man, it's simple. It's hero bread. Listen, that was so bad. Listen, I think this time of year we could use a little help making some better decisions. I know with football every Sunday, tons of hockey games, not to mention holiday parties, everything else going on this time of year. Going to have, college playoffs coming up, just nonstop festivities, basically from now till the new year. I'm going to be taking in a lot of calories and specifically a lot of carbs. I'm told maybe not the best choice for maintaining a healthy lifestyle, but that's where Hero Bread comes in. Hero makes sliced breads, buns, and tortillas that are available on hero.co as well as Amazon. And all of their products have hit the spot for me because this bread is soft, fluffy, and delicious. And right now, Hero Bread is offering the PHLY fam 10% off their first order. Just go to hero.co and use our code PHLY to save on Hero Bread today. That's hero.co to save 10% today with code PHLY. Another standout from last night's game, you wrote an article about him. I just read it before the show. A+ stuff at allphly.com. Tyson Forster. 4 goals in his last 3 games, scored in all 3. He has been phenomenal lately. My favorite part of your article, and this is why I say Charlie is the best game analyst in town, is anyone can be like, oh, look, he scored. Scoring good.
That's cool.
Tyson Forster good.
Goals good.
Yeah, and like anyone I could have done that. The play that you show at the top of the article that was like, you can see his confidence growing, and where he cuts off Erik Karlsson on the wall and then eventually gets the puck at the top of the zone, walks in and takes the shot with no traffic, nothing. That's a dude who's just like, well, I could score.
Yeah.
I could score here.
Exactly.
Like, doesn't dish off, doesn't wait for someone to get in front, doesn't do a stupid slap pass or something. Rips one. Now, it hits Nedeljkovic right in the chest. That's going to happen sometimes when you shoot a lot. You hit the goalie a lot. He comes back later, rips the one-timer and scores. Really, really like Charlie's article and just the little things. It showed, one, the little details in his game that they love so much.
Exactly.
It just made a subtle little play along the boards.
Probably a little bit of an interference, but it's one of those interference plays they never call.
Call that.
Yeah, they never call it.
Sure. Yeah. Call that one. And then later on, like, rips a shot from the top, walks in. Like, everything that they've liked about his game. Forster, the scoring is great. The details are what has kept him in the lineup, and that seemed to be, like, a lot of the quotes you were getting last night. The thing I love, though, is we were saying early in the season when he just hadn't scored, like, this dude just needs one off his ass, and then everything will be fine. If he gets one Knuble goal, then all of a sudden we'll be cool. It actually worked that way.
It really did.
Like, he had those 2 deflection goals. The first one they didn't know was his till the next day.
Exactly.
And then he had nice deflection on the Lawton shot, but like,
still, it's a deflection.
Did not snipe it.
Yeah.
And then finally puts one in on a shot the other night, and now he's got 2 in a row like that. Forster, confidence just got to be soaring right now.
Yeah, and I just think you could just feel like the weight being lifted off his shoulders. And Sean Couturier spoke to that last night, that basically said, for goal scorers, it doesn't even matter how you get the goal. It's just that you have the goal. Now suddenly you're not trying to score 5 goals on every shot. You're just trusting that you have the ability to beat a goalie. And what is so intriguing and exciting about Tyson Forster is that when a guy is doing all the things that you didn't think he was going to do, and the one thing that he's not doing is what he's always done his entire career, you're just watching him and you're thinking to yourself, man, like, if you could just do that thing that we know you can do, this could be amazing stuff right here. And now he's doing it. Now we're seeing the wrist shot. We're seeing the powerful shot with the accuracy and the velocity and the quick release. It's there, but he's doing it without sacrificing all the little details that kept him in the lineup in the first place. Because if he doesn't have those little details, he gets sent down by the beginning of November. Like, he's gone a month ago because he wasn't scoring. 3 points in 15 games from a guy who was exclusively getting top 9 minutes. That ain't keeping you in the lineup unless you're doing literally everything else well. And he was. So now, if he keeps doing everything else well, except now he scores a goal every 2 games, suddenly you've got a 30-plus goal scorer who also is one of the best two-way players in the team. And that's not a support piece anymore. That's a, borderline star level player, which was a ceiling that I never really thought he had. And now I'm starting to think, if he can put this together, I don't think he's an elite player. But I think if that player type, that's the next tier down. If you are an elite play driver who also can score a ton of goals and shoot 14-15% because your shot is just that damn good, I mean, that's the 3rd or 4th player on a great team.
And that's just, I think about a lot how during the Hextall regime, we heard that they looked at their forward combos in terms of duos. Like, we have Jake and G, right, and those 2 go together. Like, we have Coots and Reed, or whoever it was, and we just have these guys, and then you fill in the 3rd one. I'm looking at Tyson Forster and how they've, even when he wasn't scoring, got him on the ice consistently with Sean Couturier. And I'm just thinking, is Forster the high-end guy that Giroux was? We say how that, those 2 kind of made each other at the end there. One gets them there, one does all the work to score once they're there. I don't know if Forster's that, but get a guy with that kind of shot in the offensive zone a lot more. he's going to be effective. And if you have two of those, and he's one of those play drivers as well, like we said, you're going to be spending a lot of time in the offensive zone, and that has to be a good thing. And when I look at now, not just who's going to be here, but what's their role going to be, just keep looking at Couturier. Like, if he can be an awesome 2C shutdown guy, that's huge. Well, you put him with Tyson Forster, they're going to score too.
Yeah.
Like, this could be a duo that they move forward with, whether it's Konechny over there, whether maybe Bobby Brink fits on that line as like a distributor type, whatever it is. Like, I think you have two guys that you can kind of pencil in, like, second line, set.
No, I think that, and that's something that where I differ from the people who think like the Flyers need so much more talent. The Flyers do desperately need top of the lineup, high end guys. That is undeniable. They need like a superstar level player. They need maybe one or two more. Probably they probably need a legitimate impact defenseman, and then they need like a Robin to what they're hoping is Matvei Michkov's Batman. But aside from that, like I look at guys like Konechny, Couturier, now maybe Forster, Farabee. Like, no, I don't think any of those guys, Couturier maybe was at one point. I don't think he is anymore. I don't look at any of those guys as guys who can be the best player on a cup contender. They're just not good enough. But I don't think it's ridiculous to say that they couldn't be the second tier on a cup contender.
Not
like
at all.
they are. I think they all can be. Maybe Tippett, becomes more consistent and can be part of that group too. But they have guys that I think would be perfectly comfortable as the second tier behind the superstars on a cup contending team. Like, no, I don't think any of them are Nikita Kucherov or Braden Point or Steven Stamkos. But like, could they be Ryan McDonough? Yeah, like that level, and
Yes.
and you need those guys to be a cup contender. It's just that, as we've talked about, they just need guys like Matvei Michkov and Cutter Gauthier to be great, and that's the gamble you're taking because the gamble that they took in the Hextall rebuild was you're hoping that guys like Claude Giroux and Jake Voracek are still going to be great by the time the kids are ready. The gamble they seem to be maybe taking in this rebuild is they're really hoping that Matvei Michkov and Cutter Gauthier are the top of the lineup guys that they so lack. But I think they may already have that second tier of like not quite stars, but certainly impact guys. I think they might already have that.
Yeah, I definitely think it's one of the positives that I've taken from, if your team tank, you're like, well, they're winning every game. Like, this is horrible for the draft. Like, okay, I'm with you. If it were me rebuilding, I'd probably lean a little bit more towards let's tear it down a bit further. But if they don't think this is going to take that long, they do have some of those guys.
Yeah.
Like, they need less. Now, the things they need are the hardest.
The big things.
They're the hardest things to get.
Yeah.
Like, we need more superstars. Well, so too does every team not named Colorado, Vegas, and Tampa. Like, every team needs more superstars. Toronto, I guess. Like, basically, that's it. But the Flyers do seem to have everything else. And one of those things that's really emerging as a strength of this team is the goaltending. Carter Hart, and you put the numbers for both goalies like since the start of November. Hart hasn't been awesome.
He's been okay.
Yeah, he's been okay.
But he hasn't been awesome.
But I will say last night I thought he was phenomenal.
It was great.
I mean, some odd man rush chances that he stopped, just some point blank stuff. Those goddamn tip plays that the Penguins run where they're just like, there's a guy on the post somehow directing a wide shot into the net, like puck off the ice that they have the best hand-eye I've ever seen. Everyone on the team, best hand-eye I've ever seen. But he was awesome last night. He gives up the one goal at the end of the period, and it was like, well, yeah, they were going to score. What are you thinking about a potential emerging goalie battle? I know we still think it's going to be Hart the majority of the time, but I was just thinking on post-game last night, forever, during the Carter Hart tenure, basically, the backup has been aging Brian Elliott. Let's bring in Cam Talbot because they're buddies. Oh, he wants to play a little bit more than we thought. No, he's not coming back. Like Felix Sandstrom, who we have zero confidence in. He's never going to play unless it's an absolute necessity. Now, there's a goalie who they actually want to put in the net, and he's been really, really good. Like his numbers since the start of November, 5-2-0 with a 9.22, plus 5.3 goal save above average. Is that what that one is?
Above expected.
Above expected.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you see this turning into, even if it's not playing time wise, even like a battle? Like, we're going to keep one of these. We don't know who yet.
Well, I don't think that's the way that it'll be positioned, and I don't think that's even the way that they will be handling the load. I think this is Carter Hart's job. He is the number one. Maybe if Sam Ersson gets like a couple shutouts in a row, they'll be like, well, I guess we got to keep rolling with him. Like, it was the time Brian Boucher had the shutout streak with the Sharks when he was the backup, and it was like, well, he keeps shutting these teams out, so I guess we got to keep using them. But I think what it means more is it gives them food for thought for the future. Because, look, they're planning things. They're planning out who's going to be part of this, who's not going to be part of this. Now, I think John Tortorella really likes Carter Hart. I think he has confidence in him. That's why I don't think it's ever going to be a battle. Because I think as long as Carter Hart is here, John Tortorella is going to go to him over Sam Ersson more often than not. However, if you've got Sam Ersson playing really well for the rest of the season, finishes out the year with pretty darn good numbers that are really only dragged down by the fact that those first couple games were poor because he didn't play for 3 weeks.
He hadn't played since the preseason.
Like that was probably the reason for that. Yeah. If that's how this ultimately plays out, when they're negotiating a contract with Carter Hart, if Carter Hart comes in with demands that they view as a little ambitious, given his career records and given the potential dark cloud that still hangs over him, maybe the Flyers do think to themselves, you know what? We don't really it's not that we don't want you. It's that we don't really need you because we think that Ersson is, if not your equal, pretty darn close and will come a lot cheaper, which will allow us to improve other parts of the roster more than we would be able to do if we tied up a $7 million cap hit in Carter Hart. That, to me, is the more interesting question. I think this year, Ersson is going to play more than maybe he had before Hart got injured and Ersson played a bit more and played himself back into a rhythm. Like, I'm expecting, for example, they're going on this road trip. I'm expecting Ersson to get one game in this road trip. Not sure which is going to be, whether it'll be against Arizona, whether maybe they'll throw him to the Wolves against Colorado and see what the kid can do. I think he'll get one game. And I think that's kind of going to be the trend, is try to get him in a game a week, keep him fresh, keep him getting opportunities, but still stick with Hart as the main guy. But I think the big thing here is that the better Ersson plays, the more it puts in the heads of Danny Briere and Keith Jones and even John Tortorella that maybe Carter Hart isn't essential to this.
I like the idea of kind of throwing him to the Wolves against Colorado.
Just see what he's got.
Just not even see what he's got. I just think the high variance goalies, like against a team like that, like we might get lit up, but Carter Hart might get lit up too because they're awesome. Let's see if he can just do some Hasek shit. Like maybe he just has a ridiculous game. It's possible. I kind of like the idea of playing him against Colorado, but we will see on this upcoming trip. I do want to talk, because I was at the game last night, first game of the season. Ton of fun. It was a different Flyers-Penguins experience, though, than has been the case over the last decade. Because there was, especially like right in front of me, like Penguins fans had like two pretty full sections like down in front of me.
Okay.
There was so little, like I saw two fan bases going through the motions. Like, yeah, they came, but they did nothing to like make their presence. And like when the Rangers were here, it was like they clearly wanted it to be known that there were more Rangers fans than Flyers fans. Yeah. Like they had taken over and wanted to make it known. The Penguins fans were just like, yeah, we're here. All right. Like when they scored, it was loud, but there was no like resounding "Let's go Penguins" chant, like nothing. And I saw very little back and forth between the two fan bases. Like the game was nowhere near sold out.
Yeah.
It was just a very weird vibe in the Wells Fargo Center last night. And I said on the post game, like, awesome time. The renovations and everything, really cool. All my friends that I was there with that don't get a chance to go a lot really enjoyed themselves. But this rivalry, there were 4 minor penalties last night. 2 of them were a puck over the glass and a too many men. The other 2 were some sort of stick obstructions. I feel like there was zero physicality in that game. These two teams have, and the fan bases kind of reflect it. This rivalry is dead right now.
Look, It is. And we actually, it wasn't me. Someone asked Tortorella about that after the game, about the concept of a rivalry. And Tortorella basically was like, look, like, to me, a rivalry isn't created just because you're in the same state. It's created mostly because you play in playoff series against each other and then you start to hate each other. And he was like, look, you guys, and he was saying to the media, like, you guys remember those playoff series. So for you, it's still a rivalry. For us and for this team, it really isn't yet. It might be at some time in the future, again, if both these teams get good and then have a playoff series or two, and that nastiness, that anger, that animosity starts building up. But in the here and now, it's just not there because there's been so much turnover. I mean, yeah, Crosby and Malkin are still there. Giroux's gone. Couturier is still there, but Couturier was always more of I would say, like a secondary character.
Yes.
In this drama that was Flyers Penguins. You know, it was great when he shut down Malkin in that playoff series. He obviously was a huge part in the 2017-2018 series. You know, he gets injured, comes back.
MCL has a hat trick.
Exactly. So like he was part of it, but it was always, in my perception, it was always Giroux versus Crosby.
Yeah.
That was
Richards Crosby, Giroux Crosby,
exactly.
And it was this other stuff. And like, yeah, they met 3 times over 5 years in the playoffs. That was over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Like that was,
it doesn't feel that long ago to us.
Yes.
But to the kids on this Flyers team, like, yeah, I guess they remember.
They were children.
Yeah, they remember watching these series as children, but like it was as if, like, for us,
2012 is old time hockey.
No, like
to them.
for us, it would be like the Colorado-Detroit rivalry.
Yeah,
like for us, like that was awesome and that was fun to watch. But like, if
they're in different conferences.
If I was, and I'm certainly not, if I was a really good young hockey player watching those games, and then I get drafted by Colorado, I'm not going to naturally hate the Red Wings. Like, who gives a crap? Yeah, those series were fun to watch, but like, I don't have that same animosity. You build up the animosity by actually being part of the games, not just because the media keeps saying this is a rivalry. And I think what you said about the fans, about Pittsburgh, the distinction between Pittsburgh fans at the game and Rangers fans at the game, and this is honestly, I think, a good segue into what we're about to talk about. The difference between the two is that Rangers fans are excited about their team. They're like, man, we're friggin' good. We could win the cup. We want to piss off Flyers fans because we want them to know how good we feel about our team and how much better we feel about our team than they feel about theirs. Penguins fans don't feel that good about their team because I think most of them on some level realize that this is the end. That Crosby and Malkin are old. They're not what Crosby is closer to what he used to be. Malkin definitely is not what he used to be. Letang is still good, but not great. They're getting the last few years out of Erik Karlsson. This is them trying to hang on. This is them trying to make the playoffs.
You make the playoffs with these guys because that's what you do.
Yes.
You have generational dudes.
Yes.
You see it to the end.
Yes. They know on some level, even if they won't admit it out loud, that their Penguins team is not a cup contender, a true cup contender anymore. And I think that comes out in their willingness to be loud and abrasive and cocky in another team's arena because they just know that there's less of a chance their team's going to back it up.
Yeah, and that, like, it really felt that way. Like, just walking by Penguins fans last night, you're just like, yeah, hi. We'll see each other again, but tonight is just kind of, we all know what this is.
Well, it was very funny to me. Like, for years, it was the Pittsburgh power play against the Flyers penalty kill was like if you put a heavyweight in the ring with a lightweight. It was just unfair. It just felt like the Penguins were just toying with the Flyers every single time because for years the Flyers penalty kill was garbage and the Penguins power play was one of the best in the league. This time, I think the Flyers had more scoring chances on the penalty kill than the Penguins had on the power play.
I don't even think it was particularly close. I think they might have blown them away. Listen, talking about the excitement level down at the Wells Fargo Center, it's not what it was, but I think you might want to change that. And if that's the case, get in there with Game Time because, listen, buying tickets to your favorite event shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you could stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. Game Time is the place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Maybe it's like, oh, I'm an Ersson fan. I don't want to see Carter Hart. I want to go see Sam Ersson. Listen, I feel you. Well, real easy with Game Time. You wait until they announce who the starting goalie is, and boom, You go on there, 2 clicks, you have your tickets. And you can get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. The Game Time Guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section or row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code PHLY for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
So gotta stop you for a second here because the I'm an Ersson fan thing. I gotta tell a little.
This is me now.
Little story. Little story is, and this is a shout out to Olivia Reiner, who was the Flyers beat writer the past couple of years. She now is covering the Philadelphia Eagles for the Inquirer. When Sam Ersson started getting his first chance, Olivia made the case that if you were a Sam Ersson fan, you are not a Sam Ersson fan. You are an Ersson person. And I kind of love it.
I thought you were going to say Erstan.
No, you're an Ersson person.
Person
An
is
Ersson
good.
person.
I am an Ersson person.
You're an Ersson
I like
person.
That.
And the thing is, it doesn't quite work because you're supposed to say it Ersson. But I feel like, you know what? If you're making that joke, it's Ersson person.
We're going to start worrying about how you pronounce people's names. Alshon Jeffries. Come on. It's Philly. We say what we want to say when we say it.
Exactly.
So we're talking about the place that these two teams are in. And, we got a tweet the other night. Both teams need to rebuild, and only one knows it.
Yeah.
And,
I don't think that's untrue, although I think...
I understand their situation.
I understand why the Penguins are not rebuilding. I think that if... And you know what? Honestly, what the Penguins are probably thinking, which is probably true, is that they're going to do this. They're going to squeeze as much life out of their elite players as they can. And then they're going to completely suck, and they're going to luck into a generational player for the 3rd time in their history.
Charlie. It's going to be this year. Macklin Celebrini is a Pittsburgh Penguin already. I hate to break it to everybody. He is going to play with Sidney Crosby the way Mario came back to play with Crosby. It's just gonna happen.
If the NHL, there would be no way for them to argue that it's not rigged if in 2 straight years the Blackhawks and the Penguins win the lottery. It would just be all right, it's rigged. It's got to be rigged.
Listen, I am not look at all the gambling money. Obviously, all the games are rigged. I am not one of these people. However, it is very clear that the lottery is rigged.
See, I don't think it's rigged, but
the one piece of evidence I really I think the thing that they do to prove it's not rigged is Arizona never wins. Arizona has never picked one, and I'm pretty sure they've never picked 2. The team that they're always trying to save.
Right.
I feel like that
would just be too obvious.
That's their red hair. They're but wouldn't we rig it for Arizona? No, because you'd make no money with Arizona. So no. But I do think that they fudge this a little sometimes. And I don't think they're alone. The NBA clearly rigs the lottery.
So you just had this full-on conspiracy theory about all leagues.
Okay. Just those two.
Just those 2.
No one cares about the baseball draft.
Yeah, well, there are no lotteries in the other 2. It's just pure
football. It's just whoever loses, and they don't care because all the teams are worth $1 trillion.
True.
But anyway, back to this thing about the Flyers. 13-10-2 on the season. They are currently in a playoff spot, 3rd in the division on total points. Of course, 5th on points percentage. I don't know why they do it this way.
They played a lot of games so far this year.
They've played, I think Columbus has played 19 or 20 games, and the Flyers have 25.
Yeah.
There's big disparities in games played. Maybe
Ottawa's
it's
played 19.
Ottawa has played. That's what it is.
Wild.
I heard it on yesterday's What Chaos that they've only played 19, and there's teams with 25, 26 as well.
I'm sure the beat writers covering the Senators have enjoyed this early schedule. Godspeed for when it kicks up.
Yeah, March.
They got to catch up.
March is gonna suck, bro.
Yeah, right.
Currently 3rd in the Metro, 5th by points percentage, 6-3-1 in their last 10. They're on this 8-3-1 run since they lost to San Jose. Basically, they're playing this well out of embarrassment. It's we gotta make people forget about that as soon as possible.
And they're doing a pretty good job.
They've been pretty damn good since. Just looking at what they've done, after they came back from that West Coast swing, 8 straight against the Metro. 4-3-1, 4 wins, 4 losses. But the overtime, the New Jersey.
Right.
Where do you see them right now in terms of actual playoff contention? Because they're in a playoff spot, but when everyone has the same number of games played, they won't be. but they're close. What do you see?
Well, I think the 4 games to me that stood out the most were the 2 against the Islanders and the 2 against the Penguins, because
they beat the shit out of
the
them.
Islanders and the Penguins are 2 teams that I went into the season certainly not thinking they were part of the elite of the Metro.
They could make the playoffs, but they might not.
They were very clearly in that playoff bubble. The Flyers in those 4 games against them outplayed them, I think, in all 4. At the very, it was either between like, at worst, they played them to even. And at best, they significantly outplayed them. I came away from both of those because they played 2 games against the Isles. It wasn't quite, it's really annoying that they didn't do a back-to-back, so we can't call it a back-to-back, that they had to slip a game in between. That really ticked me off.
Both on Long Island with a home game against the Rangers in the middle.
Yeah, they really just had to get that Black Friday game in. That's what it boiled down to. But I thought the Flyers looked significantly better than the Islanders across both those games. And I thought the Flyers looked a bit better than the Penguins across these 2 games. It wasn't as dramatic. It wasn't like Sorokin stole that one game they lost against the Isles and then nearly stole.
And that's what happens. That's why you pay Sorokin.
Exactly. And nearly stole another. But if the Flyers, and granted, small sample, we're talking about 4 games. If the Flyers are better than both the Penguins and the Islanders, we know they're better than Columbus because Columbus is just a dumpster fire. Suddenly, we're talking about a team that is in the middle of the Metro. Like, They lost the Canes. They lost the Rangers. I think they are significantly worse than both those teams.
And they played well against the Hurricanes.
But they still
I would say in 2 of the 3.
Yeah. But I think true talent-wise, those 2 teams are better.
They are considerably better than the Flyers.
And then they lost to the Devils. That was a close-ish game, but I do think the Devils, over time, are going to crawl up the standings and surpass the Flyers.
The Devils have a real issue with health and goaltending. But, like, look at the 2 rosters. The Devils are better.
Yeah. So you've got those 3 teams at the top. You've got the Blue Jackets at the bottom. Then you've got this muddled middle of the Penguins, the Islanders, the Capitals. And now, going into the season, you thought the Flyers were with the Blue Jackets. Now I think the Flyers are with those 3 other teams. And they've played 2 of them. And they look significantly better. Well, not significantly, but they look better than 2 of them. So while I don't think they are a top 3 Metro team, if you wanted to, I think you could make a case that the Flyers are a team in wild card contention because they are in that, like, potentially could finish 4th or 5th in the Metro, looking at the relative quality of the teams in the Metro.
And they will get a chance against another one of those Metro teams, the Washington Capitals, on the 14th. December 14th, and that is the date of our very first PHLY Flyers takeover. It is going to be a tremendous time. Check our socials for links to get tickets, but not only do you get a game ticket, not only is it all-inclusive, free food and drink through the end of second intermission, you get invited to a meet and greet, nice little get-together party with Charlie and I. That's right. Meet the stars of PHLY Flyers. Obviously, that's why you want this ticket. I'll be posing for pictures, $5 a piece. There will be no charge.
I was going to say, if you want to charge, my pictures are free.
But it's just going to be a really great time down at the Wells Fargo Center. We want to get as many people out there as possible. We want to do these social events. We want to do them up big, continue to grow the community, something for you all to be a part of, because goddamn, man, we really appreciate everyone hanging on with the Flyers who is during this time of basic irrelevance. Now, they're better than we expected, but after being absolutely terrible the last 2 years and mediocre for a decade, I don't blame anyone who's like, yeah, I'm kind of out on the Flyers right now.
Take some time.
But anyone who's in and with us, we want to see you there on the 14th. We'll continue to send out links, but go to allphly.com, check out our events tab, and you'll probably be able to get the tickets there. It's going to be a lot of fun. That's all. All right. So I want to get to the Joel Farabee situation because there doesn't appear to be – while John Tortorella – seems to sometimes really want to be a disciplinarian. And we've seen his attitude with Kevin Hayes become a consistent thing to the point it's like, yeah, Kevin Hayes can't be here. Guys like that. I like that often there aren't a ton of like hanging offenses. You know, yes, they did try to trade Travis Sanheim, and maybe this is a relationship of convenience or necessity.
Necessity, I think.
But, necessity is the one I'm going for here. But like, clean slate. Travis Sanheim, and he's lived up to it, so the dude gets to play half the game, basically. Joel Farabee, yes, he played 2 shifts, 56 seconds a couple of games ago. Since then, his average time on ice, 15:06 and 14:03 in the last couple of games, has matched basically his season total, his season average. Played last night, looked like, you pointed out, I believe, in a tweet, it looked like the goal that they gave up, he might have made the mistake that got him benched.
It wasn't the exact same mistake, but
he pinched when Sanheim was already deep,
yes.
and he probably should have been the one covering.
Yes, exactly. So it was the kind of play where if Joel Farabee was truly in John Tortorella's doghouse, it would have gotten him benched again. Because it's like, I keep telling you, and you keep not doing it, but clearly it wasn't, because he was right back out there for his first shift in the second period. I thought aside from that play, Farabee was fine. He had his moments. I think there's a little bit of a misconception that there is a lot of tension between John Tortorella and Joel Farabee. I think that John Tortorella is pushing Joel Farabee, to be sure, which I think is good. Joel Farabee, you want someone like him who clearly has not yet reached his ceiling. You want him to be pushed, because I want to see what his ceiling can be. I don't think he's reached his ceiling yet. He's young enough where I think he still has more untapped potential. I think what he's shown so far this year has been promising. His underlying numbers are the best they've ever been. He's scoring goals. I would like to see him get a little bit more ice time, but maybe there's an element of you got to prove it to the coach before he gives you the ice time. I'm not in the room, so I don't know the details, but I don't think this is a situation where John Tortorella hates Joel Farabee in the way that he doesn't seem to believe that Morgan Frost is part of the solution. I think he would like to see more from Joel Farabee, but I think he very much likes Joel Farabee's skill set and thinks that he can be a part of this, which is why he didn't bench him a second time in 3 games for making a mistake. Look, they're never going to say why he was benched in that game, ever. Like, why, even after Garnet Hathaway got thrown out of the game, why you didn't bring Joel Farabee back in after sitting in for a period. I do wonder, because there was a little bit of a debate in the press box and in the press room of, like, what was the mistake that ticked off Tortorella? Was it the fact that, he's on the left side of the ice in that neutral zone formation. He crosses over to the other side, and now you have 3 forwards. 3 forwards on one side of the ice. He misses on breaking up the play, and suddenly it's a transition rush. Or was it the fact that his back check wasn't exactly the most active?
Because Sanheim is deep in the zone on that play, and you see him on screen, like, just as the play comes up ice. You don't see Farabee in the screen till the goal's being brought out of the back of the net. And Sanheim is at least, like, at the hash marks when the goal is scored.
So I don't know which one it was, but I almost wonder if it was a little bit of both. Because one thing about John Tortorella is, and this has definitely been his thing, especially this year, is that, look, we're going to make mistakes. The way we're playing, we're taking risks, we're being a more aggressive team. Mistakes are going to happen. Odd man rushes are going to happen. But if you make a mistake, you got to try like hell to erase it. And I wonder if it was the combination of the two things. It's like, you know what, Joel? I could deal with the mistake. It was the wrong read. You screwed up. It was probably something that we had talked about, and I'm annoyed about that. But you should realize if you make that mistake, you better bust your ass getting back. I don't care if you get back, but I want to see you diving to get back into that play to show me that you recognize how badly you screwed up and that you're trying everything you can to make up for it. I almost wonder if that's what happened, and that's what put him over the edge to be like, he needs to sit the rest of this game.
I think it was the combination of those two things, and I also believe, like, just if I'm the coach, if you're going to jump in like that, fucking take the body. Because if nothing else, at least now it's 4-on-4. Like, not only did you miss, but now they got 5 guys coming this way and we only have 4. Like, at least you could have taken someone out of the play, but missed on that as well, trying to go for the steal rather than playing physically. I think it all kind of combined to just be like, I don't think you're playing tonight.
I got to stop you for a second because, I'm sorry, this is really cool. Like, we're in the middle of a show right now, and the way our studio is set up, you can actually see through the glass to the elevator, and we're just chatting about the Flyers, and the elevator opens up, and Fletcher Cox just walks in. Like, that's really freaking cool.
That's not bad.
It's pretty neat.
It's not. It ain't a bad gig, Charlie.
Not a bad
Quite
gig.
honestly, it's pretty cool here. So Farabee, the one thing I'll say is, I wish he got a little bit more ice time, and now. I don't know if it would fix the power play. Since the start of November, He's 9th among Flyers forwards in power play time on ice. Typically, they don't go with 5 forwards, which means he's last in the rotation,
Right.
sometimes doesn't get in there. That seems like a mistake, just in terms of if you want to have a functional power play. Joel Farabee, one of the better players on this team. Why do you think he's not getting that time?
You know, it's funny because I think I said earlier, there's been some consternation about Couturier, whereas I've been looking at his numbers, I've been watching him closely, and I think that's overblown. I do think that Cam Atkinson is showing some signs of, I don't want to use the word regression, but I think there's you might be starting to see a little bit of the after effects of the fact that he didn't play last year. Because he came out the start of the year, he seemed like he was just jacked to be playing. He was full of, the adrenaline was high. He was making plays. It was like, man, this looks like pre-injury Cam Atkinson. It just seems like, and I don't think this is laziness. I just think that maybe that early season adrenaline's worn off a little bit, and now he's dipping a bit. And you know what? He's a goal scorer. Goal scorers are streaky, so there's that element too. He's going to go through dips. He went through dips his first year in Philly as well, where he would get real hot for 2 weeks, then disappear, then come back. That's the reason why Cam Atkinson is a support player at this stage of his career, not a top of the lineup guy. But I do wonder if the fact that he missed last year and the fact that there's probably still some, he probably still needs to get himself back into a little bit of 82 game season game shape. It may be impacting him a bit because to me, he hasn't looked nearly as effective over the last couple of weeks as he looked to start the year.
All right. Just a couple of guys I want to get to before we wrap things up. But first, I got to tell you how to look your absolute best this holiday season. And it's by shopping at FOCO. FOCO is the absolute best officially licensed gear for all sports and fandoms. Whether you're looking for team apparel for the season ahead, they've got overalls, hoodies, hats, sunglasses, bags, anything you need for game day. Maybe you're in the market for some accessories, toys, or collectibles for your man cave, she shed, or podcast set. You've got to use FOCO for all your team gear needs. FOCO always has our back for Philly sports, and they have yours too. Get the best gear around by using the link in the description of this show. And for all non-presale items, use promo code PHLY10. That's PHLY10 for 10% off. Shop at FOCO today. And if I know I've been talking about the reversible hoodies, the blankets that they have, holiday pajamas, also very cool.
Okay.
If you're looking for a little bit different look, the red flannel, that's one thing. They have some really cool Flyers PJs that you might want to check out. So that's FOCO, and use promo code PHLY10 for 10% off. We've talked about Bobby Brink some. This is kind of just the ups and downs of a rookie season. He's only got, I think, 1 assist, no goals in his last 5 or 6 games. Not exactly tearing it up, but I thought he made some plays last night. He mixes it up.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call him a physical player, but he is. I was expecting Morgan Frost, and I'm pleasantly surprised he's more than that.
It's funny that you made that comparison because I thought the same thing, where I've seen...
he's fighting along the boards.
No, he's feisty. He's
a great word.
Feisty in a way that Frost is not, and I do think that over the long term, that will distinguish him in John Tortorella's eyes from Morgan Frost because, look, John Tortorella obviously has his biases, and I think one of his biases is that if you are going to be a finesse scorer, you can be that. But
you're a superstar.
But you got to score 70 points a year. Bobby Brink, I do not know. And I like Bobby Brink. I think Bobby Brink is going to be a quality NHL player. I do not know if Bobby Brink has 70-point potential at the NHL level. So if he's going to stick...
It would be a nice surprise.
It would be great. If he's going to stick in a John Tortorella lineup, he's going to need to bring a little bit more than just points. And I think what you see is that he can do that. That he, even though he's small... that he isn't thin, he isn't skinny. He's got some bulk, and he's
got the hockey ass.
And he's willing to go into those dirty areas and mix it up a little bit. It's funny you mentioned his game. There was one play he made last night, which I thought was it was the kind of play that when you see a young guy make, it's that's if he turns out to be good, that's why. And it was a long stretch pass. Brink gets the puck. It looks like he's going to have some type of breakaway or a legitimate transition rush. He can't quite get the edge on the defenseman, probably because he's not an elite skater. And some guys would basically just panic. Maybe they just throw a shot at the net, whatever. He basically stops on a dime, waits just like a beat, turns, and then finds Owen Tippett for this brilliant scoring chance. Like Tippett could have scored on that play. It was this great pass right across the slot. And you're just like, man, that's a guy who knows what he is, knows that he's not fast enough to try to make that into a solo chance, but is creative enough to turn it into basically just as dangerous of a chance for someone else. That was a play where you're just like, man, that's his upside, and that's exciting.
I think because we just talked about Joel Farabee, and he's not impressing me the way he did to start the year. Bobby Brink obviously not scoring the way he did right away. When I was like, oh man, he's in like the top 4 or 5 in rookie scoring. Do we have a dark horse Calder candidate? No. And then it's like you're watching Connor Bedard, like, oh, right, that's why he was like minus 125 to start the season in the Calder race, because like he's gonna win. But I think we saw the best hockey both of them played together. We really saw some chemistry developing.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And they haven't, like, I just keep seeing them not on the ice together. It seems like they're a natural fit. Is it just like we can't find the right center for them? We want to see them apart because we know we could put them back together. Like, why do you think we're not getting Farabee and Brink together as much as we were?
I think part of it is just coaches like to juggle lines. They like to see different combinations. They like to try new things out. I also do think that the best version of that combo was with Noah Cates in the middle. And now Noah Cates is out. Yeah. So maybe now they're juggling things to try to balance out other lines without Cates in the mix. That could be part of it. Look, I think those two have real chemistry. I'd like to see them as a duo moving forward. But I do get the sense, because we're still kind of caught up in this duo mentality because the Flyers did it for so long. I don't get the sense that John Tortorella has that same, not obsession, but just that same way of putting together the lines.
This isn't our philosophy.
Exactly.
Like
it clearly wasn't philosophy before.
Yeah, like that's what they were doing under Hextall. That was their team building mentality.
Yes.
And if duos emerge, dope, but that's not our goal to create duos the way it was under previous management.
So I think that might be part of it, is that there just isn't that same incentive on their part because they don't view things in terms of duos. Because if they did, Brink Farabee would be a logical duo. But hey, if you want to, try Brink with a different center or something like that, look, we've said it a bunch of times. As much as it's fun to watch a team win, this is a year about discovery. This is a year about finding out about things. And maybe you want to see, okay, both of those guys, we know they can score together. If we separate them, who scores? Who's actually driving the bus here?
Final thing for me today. We've talked about this some, obviously quite a bit of time still until the trade deadline, but things are heating up. Like the holidays are coming. There have been some moves.
We're about to. Well, it was basically the Zadorov trade, which that was. I can tell you this. That was the best thing in the world that could happen to media sources.
Oh yeah,
because here's some inside baseball now that I'm no longer at The Athletic. Trade speculation stories do so freaking well.
Everyone's favorite thing,
and because of that, by like the beginning of December, all of our editors would beg us to write anything related to trade speculation because that drove subscriptions and that kept the bosses happy. And it did not shock me in the slightest. And I love Shayna Goldman. I think she's fantastic. It did not shock me in the slightest when yesterday, a week or less than a week after Zadorov gets traded, we see Shayna Goldman writing a possible trade destinations for Sean Walker. That was a direct from the editor demand. I guarantee you.
I wasn't even going to say it because I don't know your relationship with any of these people.
No, she's great.
But I was just going to be like, they did one.
Yeah, I know. And that's a direct from the editor thing.
Sean Walker's name came up on 32 Thoughts, I guess, on yesterday's episode. I don't know. Days aren't real. But I think it was the newest one, which dropped yesterday. And it's like mostly, and yes, the hockey world, like trades, the hockey world also revolves around the Toronto Maple Leafs. We all know this.
They sure do.
And they are the Cowboys.
How does this affect the Leafs?
They are in the market for defensemen. They were in on Zadorov, but they needed Calgary to cover some salary, and they're like, well, they don't, so we're not doing that.
Damn.
So they just trade him to Vancouver. They're still in on Tanev, and it's like, okay, they're looking for a right-handed defenseman. They have a bunch of D injuries. So they bring, Sean Walker, he's playing great. He's not very expensive. He's a righty. And the idea is he's not at the top of Toronto's list. Like, yeah, if they end up with Sean Walker, won't shock anyone. He checks a lot of the boxes. But they are specifically looking for somebody physical. Now, not right-handed, but Nick Seeler kind of fits that description for me. So I wanted to run this by you in terms of a prediction, because what is everyone looking for at the trade deadline going into the playoffs? Playoff-type guys. That's why we see a Tanner Jeannot go for a first-round pick. That's why we hear, Scott Lawton's going to get a first. Like, is he? He's a third liner at best. Why? Why?
Yeah.
But my prediction now, like just thinking about this, I don't think we're going to get more for Seeler than Walker. I think we're going to get more than we expect for Nick Seeler if they trade him, and less than we expect for Sean Walker if they trade him. What say you?
I could see it. Look, to me, I'm with Seeler. I'm hoping for a third. That's what I was hoping for last year. That's what I'm still hoping for. But I guess it's theoretically possible that teams might see him as that ideal
shot blocking machine.
Yeah, that shot blocking machine who can bring that toughness and grit to the bottom of the lineup, and maybe they talk themselves into giving up a second. Who knows? Sean Walker, to me, based on his statistical profile, this year, he should bring back a first.
He absolutely should.
The big question is that do other teams, and this is something I wonder too, do other teams think that Sean Walker can do what he's doing in Philly with them? Because I do believe that this John Tortorella pressure aggressive system where he just basically lets the defenseman attack, I think it is ideally suited for Sean Walker's preferred style. I wonder if he would be playing this well with another team. Now, I still think he would be fine. It's not like I think he's going to get traded and then suck. I think he's a good defenseman. But I think this legitimately might be the perfect stylistic fit for him. And if I am wondering about that, I suspect that other teams are also wondering about that, especially when their scouts get a look at him and they say, well, he's making all these plays, but he's making plays doing things that our coaches
that
would never let him do.
Yes. And I guess that is a concern. I mean, it's Marek and Friedman, and they have unlimited sources. So I'm just like, I wonder who's putting it out there, because they're not just bringing up Sean Walker. Like, nobody heard of Sean Walker before. He was a good player in LA. He was not a household name.
Well, but again, part of the reason why they're bringing him up, and this goes back to what I said a few minutes ago, is that everyone in the media knows that trade speculation drives clicks, it drives subs, it drives listens. It's a foolproof method because people are obsessed with this crap. And look, I've met Elliot Friedman. He's a great guy. I respect the hell out of him. I've been on Jeff.
He also knows the business.
I've been on Jeff Marek's show a ton of times. I respect the hell out of him. They both know that, you know what, what drives their paychecks? Listens on their podcast. And what's going to do that? If they're talking about trades and they look at Sean Walker, a guy who is exceeding expectations, who's getting a ton of minutes in Philly, and he plays on a team that says they're rebuilding, and he's on an expiring contract with a cheap cap. Of course they're going to talk about him in December because they want people to listen.
All right. We get the inside info here from Charlie. They're making shit up. That is not what he's saying.
I'm just saying
I know.
This trade will probably, if it goes down, will probably happen closer to the deadline. But people in the media
we are going to talk about it for 2 months.
We're going to talk about it for 2.5 months because we know people care about these sorts of things more than pretty much anything else in hockey.
There's nothing more fun than trades.
Exactly.
It's like when you're front office, you can sell two things: winning or hope. Trades represent hope.
Sure.
And potential winning. If you're making a trade, you're probably winning. Yeah. That's why you brought someone in.
Hope and winning.
Yeah, you get both right there.
Yeah, right.
That shit's just fun. All right. That's it for me. You have anything else, Charlie?
No, I think I'm good.
All right.
So I will not be on the show tomorrow because I will be.
We're off tomorrow.
We're off tomorrow. Yeah. We're off tomorrow. But the rest of the week, I will be remote. So hopefully we figure out these technical issues and won't have a problem while I'm remote.
It's going to be a good time figuring this out. All right. That is all the time we have for you. Thank you for hanging out. Thanks for listening. My name is Bill Matz for Charlie O'Connor. See you Thursday, Philly.